Oh my God. Hi. It's a spoopy Saturday armchair psychology. I'm so excited. I am so excited to talk about Ed Kemper because he's fascinating. I'm trying not to swear in the first couple of minutes of my stream. Ooh, serial killer Saturdays. Yes, Sarah, thank you. Hi earlier. Blush, love you too. Karma. Oh, Karma. Hey, girl. Hey, Karma. I got you, girl. How you doing, girl? Andy. Hold on. Let me just post that I am live because I don't know that it did the thingamabobber do the thingamabobber. So let me do this thing because, man, technology is great, but sometimes it's just like, no, ma'am, go on vacation. All right, that'll do. That'll do, pig. That'll do. Oh, I love talking about serial killers. I am one of those people. Hi, Annie, protector of strips. Diff, how you doing? Diff, is that Winston in your profile? And Gata, yes, Gata, you lay down. I'll try. It's gonna be a serious stream, so I should have my nice soothing voice on. How's my audio? Someone said last stream that I was like really loud, and so I turned it down. You can make him your profile picture. Listen, he's a beautiful little boy. I love him so much. He's my little man. Oh, Lucy is gonna be a year old on Monday. The puppy's gonna be a whole 1-year-old. So I figure if I can, we'll do like a members on Monday. And you'll know, I'm going to put her in the thumbnail. And we'll just hang out and have a little chit chat. Because you know how we do on members. You know how we do. Oh, I'm so excited. And I already have what I want to talk about next week for Spoopy Armchair. It's going to be the Slender Man creepypasta and the unfortunate true crime case associated with the Slender Man creepypasta. So stay tuned for that next week. Listen, Andy, also welcome in. The way I'm going to look up, I might just, you know what? If I can't find like dog safe cake to make, which they're pretty easy to find and prevalent these days, she just might get her own little mini loaf of bread, which I need to actually type out the recipe and put on my community post tab because I've had a couple people ask for it. I am on my bread journey. I'm in my bread era. And it's great. It's coming along really well. I'm going to do focaccia next because I've got just like the rustic white bread down. Plain. I think the next loaf I'm going to make, I've done plain. I've done 2 roasted garlic and rosemary loaves. One for me, gave one to my elderly neighbor and his wife because his mom was Pennsylvania Dutch and his wife is from Croatia, I think, somewhere in Eastern Europe. And they were like so excited to have fresh homemade bread without the like, all the gunk in it. Hey, Sarah K. So I think the next loaf I make is just gonna be like plain on the inside, but I'm gonna put some everything but the bagel seasoning on top of it because I was like, ooh, I could do sesame seeds. And Mama Burn was like everything but the bagel, and I was like, beach. I am your child. Oh, and he says we'll whore for bread and ice cream. It's so easy to make. So easy. I don't know if I'm ever going to venture into the sourdough starter because it's just like it seems like such a drama. I don't know if I can handle it. I want to enjoy making bread, and there's like no in between. Either the sourdough starter is super duper easy or people just hardcore struggle with it. And I just want to enjoy making my bread. That's all. I'm going to do focaccia, and then I'm going to try my hand at the recipe or copycat recipe for those Texas Roadhouse rolls. Oh, yeah, yeast is easier, and that's exactly what the Texas Roadhouse rolls are. They're just yeast rolls, probably with a little more sugar in them because they have a sweetness to them. And sugar is what feeds yeast. Hence, you get alcohol. That's why when they make Pruno in prison, they take fresh fruit and bread and put it in a dark, warm place to ferment. Boom, alcohol. Science. It's great. I wish more people would pick up on how to ferment and can and preserve food because it's very interesting. I'm getting this bread, baby. Oh, has Ethel been? Ethel is the name of Diff's sourdough starter. Has she been abandoned? Oh, humidity. Yeah. See, for some reason, like it's dry here in northern Nevada. I'm in the high desert, but people seem to do pretty well with the sourdough starters. So I don't know. We'll have to see. Are we making mead? Oh no, nope, no ma'am. Not unless you can make an alcohol-free mead. I don't drink. Um, I'll leave the mead making to Cobes. when he when he had all the fucking starburst and he like it was there was so much in there. He couldn't even like mix through to the bottom. God bless Cobes. Cobes is an American treasure and no one can tell me otherwise. Fucking Cobes. All right. So we'll do members like Monday night. Just have a little chit chat. Um, try and celebrate Woody's. I call her Woody. Listen, I don't call Lucy Lucy. I call her Woody because she's a chihuahua. Therefore, she's fucking nuts. Like she's crazy. And she hauls ass through the house like a little freight train. And I'd be like, oh my God, you're like a little freight train. Woo woo. And so then I started calling her Woody, calling her Woo Woo, then Woots, then Woody Woods. And now I just call her Woot or Woody. And she comes. She knows her little nickname. I never call her Lucy unless I'm mad at her. And sometimes she's hauling ass so fast, she'll have like a little turd just flies out of her butt. Like she can't help it. She just boop. It's like her little like rocket. Just boop. Just a little poopy turdy. Just boop. There you go. But she only weighs what, 10, 11 pounds. So we thought she'd be a little smaller, but she's doing really good. You're that way with Yuki. Your cats are adorable. So, how many of us here have heard of Ed Kemper? Hopefully, more people will find their way in, but it's never a good time to stream. Oh, yeah, there she is when she was a little baby. Yeah, I want to go through my emojis too. I was making some other emojis for somebody, and I'll get with my girls and try to. I don't know what I want to make. I don't know. I don't know. So she's gas powered. She got a little propeller. All right. So, Andy, I have, okay. So, again, with these episodes. They're heavier topics sometimes. Ed Kemper was a serial killer. Um, the videos I have picked out for us, I think a lot of people have seen the infamous 1984 interview, which I have two versions of. I have one we're going to watch where this psychologist like analyzes Kemper's body language, his manner, like what he's saying. Because the thing with Kemper, like so many serial killers, right? Ted Bundy, it's like there's no in between with these guys. Kemper, Bundy, Gacy, they were all considered, a BTK is another one, all considered like exemplary, like either pillars of their community. you know Gacy would have been considered a philanthropist before people found out his dirty deeds. Kemper was hung out at local bars and was friends with all the cops because he wanted to be a police officer, but they're like, you're too tall. He was like 6'9". Kemper's still alive. He's really, really old. He's in hospice. He's got a bunch of health problems. Storm pooper. She's a storm pooper. Oh my god. Her birthday's on Cinco de Mayo. Oh, she's a chihuahua. She's my spicy little frijole. I love her so much. Yes, he is. He is. And I found Annie says Kemper is stupidly intelligent. Yeah, he allegedly has like an IQ of about 136, where like genius level is like 140 and above. Um, and you know what else I found out? He eventually started administering psychological tests. Like he would help, like in the prison, and administer like psychological testing to other prisoners. I mean, he's been there since 70. He got caught in 73. And so he's probably been in prison since 74, 75 because trials, it takes a bit. Extremely intelligent guy, highly disturbed. I will say I watched quite a few videos and read a bunch of stuff because what is going to come up a lot, but I chose not to talk about it, are the mommy issues, Oedipus complex, weird, strained relationship with his mother. There's just aspects of that. I'm like, I don't want to go there. So I chose to focus more on the his diagnosis has changed a bit over the years as psychology has progressed. Again, he was arrested in 1973. And I mean, for sure, since 1973, the field and science of psychology, therapy, neuroscience, um, just serial killer profiling in general has evolved greatly. Ed Kemper was one of the first serial killers that the two FBI dudes who basically started the profiling unit went and interviewed. Most police officers and FBI agents were like, F these guys, let them rot. And these two agents were like, no, we need to go talk to these guys. There's Mindhunter on Netflix was based on this. And these dudes were like, no, we need to go talk to these guys. Hey DC, hey Blush. Because like we need to figure out, why are they doing this? How does a person do this? And we all know about serial killers. They all have their MOs, the profile of their victims usually, yada yada yada. So we're gonna skip over the whole mommy issue thing. And even though his diagnosis has changed over the years, one thing that seemed to always stick was the antisocial personality. So we're going to watch his interview being analyzed by this psychologist. And then we have here, let me look at. And then we have Dr. Grande talking, because I know it's going to take me a hot minute to get through like the interview psychologist video is like 24 minutes long. It's probably going to take us a bit to get through that. And then there's a couple of quick ones on antisocial personality disorder. We can look up more on that because I should have pulled more. I don't know why I didn't. And maybe on the members only stream, we'll just watch the straight interview with Ed Kemper if you guys are interested. I find he's fascinating to me because so many people found Ed Kemper likable. Again, he'd hang out at the local bars and was buddy with all the cops. He wanted to be a police officer, you know. Mom and I went out to eat a little earlier, and we were sitting there, and I was telling her what my stream was about, and she just kind of was like, you know, I was like, yeah, he wanted to be a police officer, and we were quiet, and she's eating, and she just kind of stopped and looked up, and she goes, oh my God, think about that. She said, think about how much more he could have possibly done if he had become a police officer. And I was like, oh my God. Okay. Yes. Oh, thanks, Sarah. Yes. Yes. Many healing energies and hugs and best wishes to DC on her upcoming path. And we're all here for you, girl. You know, you're gonna beat this, and you're gonna come back stronger, mama. I'm not gonna get all emotional. Okay. So let's get into this first one. Again, everything is listed in the description. This is from a channel called Dr. G Explains. And I'm sure he'll list his credentials and all that fun stuff. Yes, thank you. I needed to know the weather right now. Yo, my phone updated recently, and it's really annoying. Yeah. Oh, thanks, Bush. Yeah. Unfortunately, and DC announced this. Her cancer has returned, so she will be. She's gonna be fighting it, and she's gonna win, and she's gonna kick ass and take names as she always does. Let's go.
I'm a licensed clinical psychologist and body language expert, and today we're going to be analyzing Ed Kemper. Edmund Kemper is an American serial killer who murdered 10 people. He murdered his paternal grandparents, numerous college-age women, as well as his own mother. In 1973, after murdering his mother, he turned himself into police, and he's now serving 8 consecutive life sentences.
Can we hear it? How does he sound? How do I sound? Are we good? Are we good?
Before we get started with the analysis, I do want to remind you to like and subscribe if you want to see more content just like this. All right, let's go. What we're going to be analyzing today are interviews with Ed Kemper. What's somewhat unique about him is his degree of intelligence and intellect. You're going to notice that he is able to speak in very detailed terms, in very precise ways about things that he did, things that he thought, but you got to be very careful with him because I'm going to point out some ways that he may be very, very manipulative. All right, let's just jump right in.
This is a big thing. I think people miss, like, you know, I've had many conversations with people over the years where they're like, I just want to keep, you know, my baby, my child safe. And I'm like, do you think, like, obviously, like, there could be a threat to your child that, you know, is an obvious threat. They look bedraggled, you know, you can just look at him and tell, like, oh no, I don't want you near my lunch I had last week. I said, it's the charismatic ones. It's the ones that take the time and do whatever to earn your trust, to earn access to you or your child. I'm like, those are the ones you have to look out for. I had a conversation with a friend once, and like she went pale white, and I'm like, you can't always tell. Like, you got to be real careful. We've all heard countless stories. The coach, the pastor, the neighbor next door, the cousin, the whatever. It's, you got to be careful.
People see.
A nice guy.
Did you like Kemper?
I like Kemper.
You were able to appear like an ordinary person, non-threatening to...
I lived as an ordinary...
All right. He's talking about how he lived as an ordinary person. You're going to see a little smirk on the corner of his mouth.
I chose this guy because I really liked him, because he noticed the same things I did. The little smirk. It's subtle. It's really subtle. And listening to his analysis of this, and this is why I also want to watch Kemper's interview alone. We can do it at the end of this stream, depending on how long we go, or on members only. He's likable. Like, if you take away the knowledge of what he did, he's totally likable. And that in itself is frightening.
Because the idea that he's this manipulative and that he's this good brings him pleasure. Let's watch this, and then we're going to watch it again.
Ordinary person most of my life, even though I was living a parallel and increasingly sick life.
So him acknowledging what he did was sick is going to confuse people, because then they go, okay, if he can acknowledge that, if he turned himself in, then I should believe what he's saying, because someone who would turn themselves in would have no reason to lie. But I really don't think that's the case. Let's go back. Watch this small smirk across his face as he's talking about being able to blend in as normal.
Non-threatening to...
I lived as an ordinary person most of my life, even though I was living a parallel and increasingly sick life. One victim let me back in the car. I locked myself out. She opened the door for me. My gun was under the seat. What in the hell am I doing telling you that? Am I a masochist? Am I looking to be tormented further?
All right, now we're going to talk about the various emotions he's displaying in a second, but what I really want you to hear about this, he's telling you right now exactly who he is, and you've got to look at the rest of these interviews through this lens. He's telling you, I am a wolf in sheep's clothing. You should not believe me. People have been killed because they believe me. There was a victim in a car who let me in because I was believable. So as you watch this, the pull to believe him, the pull to trust him is going to be there. That doesn't mean that everything he says is a lie, but it also means that he is doing to you exactly what he does to other people, which is make them think he's a nice guy. And that's exactly, he knows how to do it. He's very good at doing that. Let's go back and watch this clip again. I'm going to show what emotions come out.
Which is why Kemper is so fascinating to me. And he was considered a mod. I was reading up on him. He was a model prisoner. Like, he's old and infirm and in hospice now. And he towered. He is 6'7", 6'9". He towered over these prison guards, sometimes by a foot. But like, they never worried about him. He was a model inmate, like I said. He got to a point where he was administering psychological tests for the prison on behalf of the prison to other prisoners. Which I have a lot of questions about that. Like, I get he was trusted. Could you imagine sitting there and Ed Kemper, you're in prison for God knows what, and Ed Kemper's like, I'm just going to ask you some questions. This 6'9" serial killer. And you're like, okay. Like, what are you going to do? Fuck. Oh my God. All right. And I like this guy because he does the psychological aspect. Y'all know I love some body language, because Your body is always going to tell on you. Your body language is always going to betray what you're actually thinking, feeling, and intending. I love this shit. Oh, I'm so in my fucking element right now.
One victim let me back in the car. I locked myself out. She opened the door.
See the eyebrows raise. Now, this is surprise. When we feel intense shock or surprise, when we think back on those moments, our eyebrows raise because we do a similar expression to what we do when we feel shock or surprise. So even he was surprised that somebody let him back in. Let's watch that again.
One victim let me back in the car. I locked myself out. She opened the door for me. My gun was under the seat. What in the hell am I doing telling you that? Am I a masochist? Am I looking to be tormented further?
And then there's anger that comes across his face right there, right in his brow. Now, the question is this a bit of a performance? Is this part of him drawing people in, saying, I'm telling you about the truth of how bad I am.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, you should believe what I'm saying further.
I've seen this interview with Kemper multiple times because, again, he's like in top 5 serial killers for me, like of who I find most fascinating and terrifying. And this is one of the things, like, it's just so much of it confuses me and fascinates me. And I'm not always very good at putting things into words, but him saying stuff like that, why am I telling you this? Like, it never made sense to me. And I love that this guy's calling this part out, because that part, I think the first time I watched this interview was probably, I don't know, like 8-10 years ago, when I was like, oh my God, they've got like fucking serial killer interviews on YouTube. Fell down a rabbit hole. It was great. And I remember this specific sentence. And I'm like, it's fucking weird, man.
Why am I telling you this? Really, even saying that may be part of his manipulation. This is going to get a little bit confusing in this way, because you want to be able to believe, like I said, what he's saying, because it sounds like he's being candid. And I think that there are definite truths in what he says, but I think there are also manipulations that we're going to get to. So I just want you to keep that in mind. He is a confusing person to watch. I also want you to keep in mind the savagery of what he did. If you're not familiar with what he ultimately did to his victims, the crimes that he committed are about as heinous as you could possibly imagine. If you want to read up on that, that's up to you. I won't force everybody to listen to the kind of details about the things that he did, but truly, he is as heinous as any serial killer that has ever lived. And that's the truth.
I'm trying to show you just how awful this got.
So we can go into that again. I just wanted to focus on like more of like this stuff. And I mean, I could have streamed 6 hours about this. He killed his grandparents. I believe he shot them when he was 15. Went to a juvie type institution for that. And they were his dad's parents. I can't remember where his dad was. He lived with and was raised by his mother. Again, I'm not going to go too much into their relationship, but I will say he ended up taking his mother's life. He decapitated her. Trigger warning. He did bad no things with her body and her head, specifically where her head was decapitated. Use your imagination. And then buried her head outside of their house in the yard. So it was like in the ground, but he knew it was, it was looking up like into the living room window. And he said he did that on purpose so that I forget why. Something about looking down on him, or they had a very strange relationship.
How commanding.
And you saw a very brief smile again. Now, this is a little bit harder to see, but watch his mouth here.
I'm trying to show you just how awful this got, how commanding. And outside, I looked troubled at times. Other times, I looked moody. Other times, perfectly serene. Not very sane.
And here's the smile again. It's interesting. Whenever we start looking at these killers, they always have certain tells. It seems that for him, he probably feels an exuberance that's a little bit hard to hide. When he thinks about the idea that he pulled off being normal in front of other people, he finds this amusing. This is such a funny idea to him. Watch this part again.
Other times, perfectly serene. Not very sane. But again,
so when people smile, we want to mirror that. That's just how we work neurologically. So
Sarah asks, didn't Ted Bundy also do that? I know he was known to do some unsavory things to his victims after their passings. Gross. I don't remember offhand. It's like it's all jumbled who did what, except for the more like I'll have to talk about Bundy or Gacy because I forget. I was talking to some friends one day and I was like, I grew up with this like weird shadow of Gacy because I'm from Chicago. A lot of my extended family lived in the suburbs. And I've mentioned this before. My grandma was one of the people that used to call and complain about the smell, about the horrible stench of death coming from John Wayne Gacy's house. Oh, because he had bodies buried in the crawl space, not the basement, the crawl space. There's a difference. And my family always called the crawl space the Gacy space, and it freaked me out. So I can't remember offhand about Bundy. I know he had removed one of the front seats from his car so that he could kidnap his victim and put them in the car and they wouldn't be seen, like unless you got right up on it. Hey Anna, how you doing? But I'm sure we'll eventually talk about Bundy, Dahmer, all of that. But Ed Kemper is, yeah.
But when you see somebody talking in this way and they're talking about, well, I wasn't very sane, unconsciously we recognize, okay, well, he recognizes the problems he had and he's smiling. So it makes us more comfortable with this. It makes us forget what a monster he really is for just a minute.
I was also involved in killing co-eds because my mother was associated with college work, college co-eds, women, and had very strong and violently.
Now, something I want you to keep in mind, he has serious issues with feeling sexually repressed. So he has to find some reason why he would go after college co-eds, rather than it being because he's attracted to them, rather than it being his own internal challenges with this. He has to attribute it to his mother. Now, I want you to keep in mind, he has come back after the murder and basically said, she was the reason I did all this. It's all because of her. You got to keep in mind, psychopaths externalize all blame. I think that there were a lot of ways that she was very awful to him.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that she is actually the reason he did this, even if that's how he wants to frame it. So he may be saying things here that sound plausible, but in all reality, it's far more likely that he went after these women. Maybe he found them because his mother worked at a college campus, but it was his own impulses and desires that drove him to this. It had very little to do with his mother, I imagine.
Co-eds because my mother was
Again, I stop and I think about, what if she worked somewhere else? Right? What if he became a cop? Would there have been more victims? It freaks me out. I'm that person. I'll sit there and I will ponder upon it, and it leads me down this like weird road, and then it gets to be too much, and I'm like, nope, we're still. I'm gonna go make bread. We're making bread because it just like it scares me. I mean, so he killed 10 people. 3 of which, so 2 were his grandparents, 1 was his mother, and then 7 young girls. And there was like a time he talks about he lived on his own briefly. He had a small apartment, and this young couple was coming up the stairs into the building, and he walked past them as they were coming up, and he was going out to hunt, essentially. And he talks about very Elliot Rogers, like the jealousy, the resentment, the anger, like because he never had that. He never had a relationship. Apparently, again, he was, likable guy, charismatic, but I think most women, most people, you pick up that red flag, something's off. Something's off. I don't care if you don't have a record right now. Something's wrong with you, and you will one day. That kind of vibe. And again, he was like 6'7", 6'9". And so when he was passing this young couple, he remarks, I think he says it in this interview, and again, gets that little smirk about he like had a girl in the trunk of his car. And he was going to take her to do some stuff. I mean, bleh.
Associated with college work, college co-eds.
Exactly, Sarah. He'd have found a way to deter them off his path longer if he was a cop. He would have had free access to so many more people, right? Being a cop in a uniform, especially back in the late 60s, early 70s, everyone trusted cops back then. I mean, for the most part. And yeah, it definitely, he would have Dextered that shit, I love Dexter's one of my favorite TV shows.
And
see, after he said women, he smiled again. There's part of him that feels confused, conflicted, excited by all of this.
had a very strong and violently outspoken position on men.
And then he does feel genuine anger if you look at his brow when he thinks about his mother's position on men.
For much of my upbringing, my mother was a sick, angry, hungry, and very sad woman.
Now, all of those things may be true, but I still don't think that that's the ultimate core reason behind why he committed these killings.
I hated her, but I wanted to love my mother. They represented not what my mother was, but what she liked.
And this is where the question of nature versus nurture comes into serial killers. I've mentioned this before. There was a college professor talked about psychopaths and how their brains, in a brain scan, he can look and pick out who is a psychopath because their brains are different. Like what parts light up, like that kind of stuff. And he scanned a whole bunch of people's brains and was like, ooh, that person's a psychopath. It was his brain. But he never hurt anybody. He had no inclination to. He recognized, I think everybody, like you can have psychopathic, sociopathic, you can have traits of certain kind of things, but it doesn't mean you are that thing and are going to do bad no things or act in such a way, etc., etc. So that's where the question comes in. Clearly, there was something already existing in Ed Kemper that was not right. Did his mother, who, reading up on this beforehand, I saw some speculation on her, like what could have been quote unquote wrong with her, and I think the majority consensus is possibly like severe borderline, and that she may have also at least had psychopathic tendencies, but there was a clear toxic dynamic between Ed Kemper and his mother, and she took I remember watching an interview, I don't think it's this one, where the interviewer said he got the impression that it was like Kemper's mother substituted him in place of his dad and directed all of her anger and resentment and hatred toward Ed Kemper's father at him when, he was just a fucking kid. So nature versus nurture, I think it does matter. I think if somebody could have the potential, the setup, right? The dominoes to fall, the psychopathy, the antisocial, the whatever to become a serial killer. But if they are raised in an environment, and sometimes even if they are raised in a loving, supportive, functional environment, sometimes they still go left, but the majority of them won't. There's so much to this. I could talk about this shit for hours.
What she coveted, what was important to her, and I was destroying it.
Why did you actually kill the girls?
My frustration, my inability to communicate socially, sexually. I wasn't impotent.
So right here, he is acknowledging probably much more of what is the reality.
Oh, Andy, I've got some female serial killers on the list, girl. Aquatafan. Now, there's some like old-timey ones and some recent ones because there's not a lot. There's some out there.
Behind why he committed these murders. Once again, he'll oftentimes tie it back to his mother, but it probably has a lot more to do with this right here, as well as an insatiable desire to hurt, a curiosity and confusion about humans. As I talk about many times with these serial killers, they don't see people as people. They see them as literal objects, because the way that he treated humans, even after they had passed, there's no other way to describe what he did other than literally seeing people as just objects. They were not humans to him like they are.
That is wild to me because my brain works the complete opposite. Like I'm always like, I love people. I love talking to people. I love meeting people. I try to avoid the unhinged, unbalanced, like loudmouth crazy ones because I just like that's not my vibe, But I'm always, and I think most of us are that way. We want to help. We want to get to know somebody. We try to put ourselves in other people's, place, try to see their viewpoint, what they're going through, et cetera, to just me even trying to comprehend what it's like to look at another person, at another human being and see them as an object and just not feel like love, care, concern, a want, a need to, to nurture or whatever. Like, it's very difficult for me to understand that. I understand it cognitively, like as it's being explained and everything. But for me to sit there and not do that is just, it's the same way with like people with dogs, like cats. I tell my girlfriends, don't you ever start dating a guy. I told all my friends, if you ever start dating somebody who is like has no interest, there's a difference between like, oh, we couldn't have a dog growing up because somebody was allergic, or we didn't have a yard, or my grandma didn't like cats, so we didn't. But I want to get a pet one day. I was like, don't any of you ever date a dude that is totally against getting pets? Because if you don't at least want to have something to take care of, right? Especially a cat or a dog, I think there's something wrong with you. People that are like, fuck animals, fuck pets. Nope. Don't talk to me. We ain't friends.
Or to you and me.
Emotionally, I was impotent. I was scared to death. And I was in shock because of that. I couldn't believe that it was that way. And I'm walking back there bewildered. I got to kill her. I can't let her go. She's going to tell him. Everybody's going to get me.
Hey, karma, 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 chameleon. I sing that in my head every time I see your name. Sorry. I think my caffeine's kicking in, and I took a little snappy poo. How you doing? Welcome in.
She sees the blood on my hands. What are you doing? She
Aww.
pulled back and she gasped. And I think, whoa, I don't want her to know what happened. I said, your friend got smart with me.
So now we're seeing something a little bit different. I talk in many videos also about how people lick their lips when they start feeling excited or when they start feeling nervous. I don't think that he's feeling nervous right now. I think
dogs do the same thing. Dogs, if a dog is getting nervous and is like, you're in my space, I'm not sure about you, I'm not sure about this, and they'll start licking their lips and yawning. It's a release of stress. So, like, if you work around animals or you're around a new dog, look out for those signs. Dogs do the same shit. The lip licking, baby.
I think going back here is exciting to him because he is talking about the things that he did. He's talking about times where he had intense control. Watch this right here.
I don't want her to know what happened. I said, your friend got smart with me. She'd been getting really smart with me a lot. But
now you're seeing him go right back. The way he's talking, I think that that's exactly how he said it. His brain is being transported exactly back to that moment. So you saw him briefly lick his lips before he jumped directly into dialogue that was probably verbatim exactly what was said at that time.
That freaks me out. That freaks me out. And that little, it's really quick. It's just like a little glimpse of the anger and the rage that he possessed. I have trauma brain because like of how I grew up, and that makes my little lizard trauma brain go.
But I never hit her. I killed her, but I didn't hit her.
Now watch his brow and his mouth right here.
I don't want her to know what happened. I said, your friend got smart with me. She'd been getting really smart with me a lot.
See, yeah, your friend got smart with me. Eyebrows raised. And this way, it means emphasis. He wants her to look at him. He wants to feel important right here.
But I never hit her.
He says, I never hit her. He gets angry at the idea.
I killed her, but
and then he smiled when he said, I killed her.
I didn't hit her.
But then didn't hit her. And gets his brows look angry.
Oh, do we see why I chose this video in Ed Kemper? Ooh, oh my God. So I killed her, but I didn't hit her. That is. There's quite a few people that I know or know of that would say some shit like that. I killed her, but I didn't hit her. The flash of anger, the quick smile when he's saying I killed her. Ooh, these are the subtleties that are so fucking scary to me.
Angry again. It's a very interesting mix of emotions going on here. But look at the half smile when he talks about that he killed her.
Got smart with me. She'd been getting really smart with me a lot, but I never hit her. I killed her, but I didn't hit her. I said, your friend got smart with me and I hit her. I think I broke her nose. You better come help. She's about to die. Why does she have to know that?
And once again, there's a faint smile. And I don't know if it's hard for you to see this, but there's a faint smile. So the idea that he's going back to these moments and that he acknowledges the heinousness of the crimes he committed and he keeps saying they're awful, I think he still feels joy and pleasure and feels excitement talking about and thinking about what it is that he's done.
Wasn't that swell a knife anyway?
Most serial killers, one, they keep trophies, right? A lot of them, hey T girl, they keep trophies, right? Like usually a piece of jewelry, clothing, even a lock of hair, other things, other bad no things. They'll go back and revisit if the body is still there. They'll go back and like revisit it. What was I going to say? Sorry, my thought just flew out of my head. Oh, most serial killers never, when they get caught, they never fully confess to all of their victims. Gacy. My mom worked in a laundromat in Chicago, and one of the people that used to come in to do their laundry on the regular was John Wayne Gacy's psychiatrist at the time. This is like back in the 80s, 90s. When I tell you Gacy is a black cloud over my life in this weird fucking way, I do not lie. And there's a lot he couldn't say because, of course, patient, doctor privilege. But it was well known at that time because I believe Gacy was kind of like waving it around, so to speak, about you guys will never find all of them. You'll never know about all of my victims. And most serial killers keep a few victims to themselves. They don't tell authorities about them after they get caught, or they won't tell them where they killed them or where their bodies are. Because it's like a mental trophy, so to speak. And I will say this. It is suspected because John Wayne Gacy had a construction company for many years when he was active. And it is suspected that on some of the houses he was building, because he was out in the suburbs in Chicago, lots of land, lots of big fancy new houses being built. It is suspected that he may have put some of his victims' remains and hidden them in people's driveways and foundations of their houses. And I wouldn't doubt it. Because there's a lot of victims, a lot of missing people from around that area and time they suspect he took that they never found. And I mean, it's the perfect hiding place. And unless that driveway or foundation ever gets demolished or whatever for any reason, like, how are people going to know it's there or even where to look? I need to remember to look into that more.
I went out and bought a pawn shop huge knife. And
All right. He saw the big swallow after that. He's talking about the knife that he used. He's talking about having a big knife and thinking about the things that he did with it. The unconscious mind is a powerful thing. So even if those specific images aren't coming to mind right now, he's having to swallow because it is, once again, exciting for him. Watch this part again, then we'll keep going.
huge knife. And I kept on just mindlessly attacking. I thought I was pretty slick. And went and tripped all over myself. That first 2 murders, the first 24 hours, there were 3 clear times I should have been busted, and I wasn't.
So when he talks about this, once again, him talking about the vulnerabilities he had, him talking about the times he could have been busted, all of this stuff, this once again makes people want to believe him more because he is allowing himself to seem vulnerable, to say, look, I screwed up. And that's something that he does to draw people in.
ADHD brain. Did you know one time there was this couple that like was out for a walk wherever, I forget, was it like New Mexico or something? Because Ted Bundy went all over the place. Like Sarah Kay said earlier, he was arrested in Florida at one time. Shout out Florida, man. This couple was like out walking and I don't know, some sort of a wooded nature path trail, and it was like dark out. And they were in this area, and I forget which one of them stepped on something, and it felt weird, and they just got like a bad energy. They got the heebie-jeebies, you know what I mean? And they're like, we don't want to be here right now. Which I hate the fucking woods. I hate the forest. Why you out there in the dark? Go home. Like, have you heard of the Bigfoot? Like, there's bad, scary no things out in the woods. Don't go in the woods. I hate the fucking woods. So they hightail it out of there. Come to find out, Ted Bundy was in the fucking tree line and had just killed a girl, and they stepped on her. Don't go in the woods. That's the moral of the story. Don't go in the fucking woods. Stay home. Prairies, flat fields, I can see. Real cool. I don't go up to Tahoe. I live right by Lake Tahoe. Bitch, I don't go up there. I do not go up to Lake Tahoe. There's too many trees. And I would have to drive on 80 from Reno to Sacramento for work. And I was always like, dear God, if I ever break down, don't let it be in the middle of like where there were just certain parts. I'm like, please don't let it be there. Because it's nothing but woods. I can't do it. I can't fucking do it.
Probably the same tactics he's used throughout his life to manipulate people. And it works. It works really well. Just like if you think back at the very beginning of this video, the other person they interviewed said, yeah, I like Ed Kemper. And so you got to keep in mind that he's so much more manipulative than you might pick up just watching him talk, because he is interesting in that sense. Some serial killers, people are immediately repulsed by. They don't even want to see them talk. When it's somebody like Ed Kemper, because the way that he is open about what he's done, the way that he talks about that it was bad, the fact that he turned himself in makes people want to believe him more.
See, and then you look at somebody like Jeffrey Dahmer, he was very uncomfortable with himself, in his own skin, his sexuality. He was very quiet. He worked in, like around the time he got caught, he worked in a candy factory, you know, so like a little solitary job, just, you know, doing whatever. Would work, come home, would try to go out, meet dudes. Also have an interesting story about Jeffrey Dahmer. Side-eyeing my brother. The stories I have. Shout out Chicago. But isn't it weird? Isn't it weird how like you get somebody like Jeffrey Dahmer who's like shy, like painfully shy, introverted, awkward. People don't have that charisma and that energy where like a Kemper or a Bundy, where people, you know, like them and kind of want to be around them, and you know, it's like a complete aversion. But at the core of everything, they're exactly the same. It's human beings are fucking fascinating. Oh, you never heard that about the people stepping on it? Oh, yeah, I've seen it floating around YouTube quite a bit. Well, because it was like, I forget how the people figured it out. I think it was because Bundy got caught and he was talking about this specific victim, and like these people were dating at the time, but they ended up like getting married and whatever. And it was some years later they saw on TV, I guess Bundy was talking about it, and they're like, oh my God, we were there. That was us. You know, fucking wild, dude.
Campus. I was picking up some very lovely young women.
Hey, Queen.
You hear the chuckle again. I was picking up some very lovely young women.
Yes, access day or night to the campus. I was picking up some very lovely young women.
The reason I keep pointing this out is that you have to keep in mind how much joy he gets from what he has done, even if he isn't saying that, even if he's saying what I did was wrong, he can't help but feel excited by it.
You know what we were talking about as we're driving around?
And there's the smile again, if you didn't notice.
Some very lovely young women. You know what we were talking about as we're driving around? Almost as often as not, this guy that's going around doing this stuff. And the second they started talking that, they didn't realize it, but they were getting a free ride.
This is interesting because if you've been following the Rex Heuermann case, there is an escort who basically said that when she was with him, he was talking about this exact thing. Do you know about the escorts that are getting murdered and all of this stuff? So this in some ways very much reflects a current case going on. That being said, Rex Heuermann has not been found guilty. He very well may be innocent. He's just a suspect, or he's the prime suspect at this point. But it's interesting, the potential parallels there.
I'm glad you're enjoying it. I hope everyone is. I said earlier in stream, next week we're going to be listening to the very well-known Slender Man creepypasta, and then delving into the true crime case where like the girls tried, stabbing their friend and but yeah, what was I gonna say? Oh, I forgot what I was gonna say. It'll come back to me and then I'll have to pause right away again. Isn't that always the way though? Driving around. Can you believe what's going on with these cases? Oh my God. These girls just out here getting stabbed. I can't believe it. And they're like in the car with the guy. What I forget what it is. Like there's like some statistic where it's like you walk by or interact with like X amount of serial killers in your life. And fun fact, I had a friend in college some years ago here in Reno, and we met up for lunch one day, and she was just like, oh, like typical like movie, like the hair, like hadn't showered in 3 days, hadn't slept, looked all unkempt and whatnot, because she was going to UNR for, I forget what her exact degree was. It was like criminal psychology or something. And she just had like arms full of papers, and we met for lunch. She's like, oh my God, oh my God. She goes, I think there's a serial killer operating between here and Sacramento, and that they're driving between Reno and Sacramento. And she showed me like all this stuff she found, and she was going to take it to her professor, to our county, Washoe County sheriff. She's like, will you drive with me to go to Sacramento? And I was like, bitch, I can't, because I was working at the time. It was wild. I lost touch with her, but I think she was right based on what she showed me. I mean, you never know. You never know. I like people, and I want to be nice to them. But when my fuck shit alarm goes off, I listen to it. Russ. Russ.
Let's watch that again, and we'll keep going.
You know what we were talking about as we're driving around? Almost as often as not, this guy that's going around doing this stuff. And the second they started talking that, they didn't realize it, but they were getting a free ride.
So how come they get in a car with somebody at that time?
She judged me not to be that guy.
Ooh, look at that face. Oh, that face. Look at that face. She judged me not to be that guy. Look at that. It freaks me out so bad. She judged me not to be that guy. Smirk of satisfaction. Look at God, his little finger on his cheek, sir. The power of Christ compels you. And keep in mind, this was just say the early 70s. Hitchhiking back then, it was commonplace. It was normal. It was every day. To get in a car with somebody you didn't know was normal. Totes normal. Well, no big deal. Oh yeah, this guy gave me a ride home. Oh no, do you want a ride, honey? No, I'll just hitchhike there. It was normal.
We're really starting to see that he smiles whenever he thinks about the fact that he stayed hidden, that he would fool people. To him, that just seems endlessly amusing.
With somebody at that time.
She judged me not to be that guy. I didn't look like it. It was getting easier to do. I was getting better at it. I was getting less detectable. I started flaunting that invisibility, severing a human head, 2 of them at night in front of my mother's residence with her.
And another.
Yeah, I know this is supposed to be like a little dippity-doo, and on like, okay, this is Ed Kemper and stuff, and like a little bit about him, and then like a psychological aspect. We might not get to it on this stream, but I think I might do a separate. Do we want to do a separate stream where we go more into detail? Because the shit he did was wild. Let me know. Leave it in the chat. If you're watching on replay, leave it in the comments. Do we want a separate Ed Kemper stream because I could talk about him all day. I could watch interviews and he's horrifically fascinating. I think that's a good term. All right, we'll do it then. We'll do it. Maybe, do we want to do it on members? Make it like a little exclusive for members. Happy birthday, Lucy. We're going to talk about Ed Kemper. She doesn't care. She's too busy running through the house at full speed with little dingleberries popping out of her little pushy baby girl.
Parallel with the Huerman case is that it's been alleged potentially the victims were killed at his house. And
yes, he was also known as the Coed Killer because college girls at this time were referred to as co-eds, and he killed college girls because his mother worked at said college he would hunt them from.
The parallels don't stop there, aside from the fact they're also very large men. I did a video talking about this, but it's very interesting to hear this. It's also interesting to see how much exuberance he is showing through his smiles as he's talking about what he did.
Oh, and obligatory YouTube stuff. If you want to become a member, the link for iOS and general memberships are linked in the description, as well as all the other ways to support, yada, yada, yada. Sorry. I don't have anyone calling and harassing me, so I just try to put on a good stream. Shut up, Raven. Shut up, Raven.
Severing a human head.
I think it's hard to keep in mind the reality of what he did, because it's not that unusual that somebody could talk about something horrible happening and that they could potentially have a smile on their face, but he actually did these things. He probably has visual images as he's talking about this, and he can't help but feel joy and to smile when he thinks about it.
That makes me nauseous. That literally makes me feel ill, because I know watching this Ed Kemper interview, I've watched it many times, and you can see it with Dahmer. You can see it with Bundy. You can see with quite a few of them, serial killers and just violent criminals in general, that when they start talking about their crimes, their actions, what they did, they kind of get this like he's doing now. It's like this subtle looking down, far away look with this smile on his face, and you know he's reliving it and he's getting pleasure out of it. And I just
Two of them at night in front of my mother's residence, with her at home, my neighbors at home upstairs, their picture window open, the curtains open.
Why did you keep the heads? Why did you cut them off, and why did you keep them?
Something out of my childhood.
So he's attributing to why he keeps the heads to something from childhood. Keep that in mind as he talks through this.
I could put it on an incident. I mean,
so he laughs as soon as he starts to think back on this incident, if you notice that.
My father chopping the heads off of our two pet chickens and my mother insisting that I eat them for dinner. You know?
Now, the interesting thing about the way he's laughing, this is a genuine laugh. This is not an uncomfortable, sort of shaky laugh. Like, he is amused by this. And when you think about when we talk about trauma, it's not impossible that people laugh when they talk about something traumatic, or that he tries to see the amusement in it. But I want you to keep in mind, this is truly an unusual response with what he's talking about.
We could say it was something that simple.
Yes. He committed his crimes in the early 70s. I know he was arrested in 1973. This interview is from 1984. But I'm going to suspect, like, once he's in prison, he wasn't really, like, up on the latest fashions and whatnot. And the 70s stash definitely carried over into the 80s stash. I'm not going to lie. He looks like a little bit like my dad here. The haircut, the glasses, the stash. It's, yeah. Like if you just did a cartoon character of those three aspects, yeah.
I don't think it was.
So think about the context here. He's just being asked about why he collected heads, and he can't help but let out a laugh. Now, part of what he's doing is telling a story from his childhood that I guess he could say that is amusing to him because he's talking about how cruel his mother was. But I really want you to keep in mind that sometimes when the really savage things get brought up, he does smile, he does laugh. This is someone who is just as deranged now as he was when he was free. Let's watch this interaction again.
I mean, I think the last time he was up for parole was 2021, if I remember, because like I said, I was reading through some stuff. And like he was born in 1948. So he's like in his 58. He's going to be like, what is that? He's like 60s, 70s. He's a senior citizen. He's got a lot of health problems. He's a very ill old man. And he was up for parole a couple years ago. And they still denied him because they still determined he is a threat. That if they were to release him, even in his poor health, in his old age, that he is highly likely to go out and reoffend if they were to release him. Ooh. Oh, do you mean the Netflix show Mindhunter Gata? About the FBI forming like the profiling division? It really is a good show. I loved the first season of it, but then like the second season didn't come out for like a couple of years. And I was really disappointed because they were dropping all these hints to like BTK throughout the first season. Yeah, fantastic show. And again, shout out to those fucking 2 FBI agents because people didn't want it. They're like, we don't need to talk to these guys. Lock them up, throw away the key. They're horrible. They coined the term serial killer. They didn't know what to call these guys. And they went and they interviewed Kemper, a couple others. And that's how the FBI profiling department came to be. And it's used with the FBI. So many applications across so many agencies in the world now because of these 2 guys. Fucking shout out to them. No, yeah, I call it Criminal Minds too. I do the same thing. Don't worry, it's okay. I got you.
I could put it on an incident. I mean, my father chopping the heads off of our 2 pet chickens and my mother insisting that I eat them for dinner. You know, the stairs with a camera bag that belonged to a young woman that had her severed head in it. Walking up to my apartment past a happy young couple coming.
I fucked it up. I fucked up the story. Listen, I read and I watch a lot and I got a lot of information in my brain cell and sometimes it gets overloaded and I fuck up the details. This is what I was talking about earlier.
As he's talking about walking past a happy young couple, I know I hate pointing out just smiles, but it's so important to who he is because the more he thinks about getting something by people, the more he thinks about staying hidden, the more excitement and the more happiness it brings him. So you have to keep in mind in the context of every interview and everything that he does, he is telling people exactly what he wants them to know because it brings him great joy to fool and manipulate people. So you always have to keep that in mind when you are watching Ed Kemper talk.
Down the stairs, who nodded and smiled at me as they went by. Good evening. And they're going out on a date where I'd love to be going. And I'm aware of both of these realities, and the distance between those two is so.
And there you see, as he's talking about the different realities that someone's going out on a date and he's not, you see the anger on his brow right now. He does feel angry about this. I think that's something he would probably acknowledge too, actually.
I walked up to her bed. She's laying there reading a paperback. as many thousands of nights before.
There's the lip licking again. We see this so much with serial killers when they start talking about the things that they did.
She's laying there reading a paperback as many thousands of nights before. And she said, "Oh, I suppose you're going to want to sit up all night and talk now."
Another thing Ed Kemper seems to do is that when he talks about things that happened, he does seem to, in a very real way, go back to those moments when he's talking about.
I think most criminals, I'll just speak to my opinions on criminals and serial killers. I think they are untrustworthy narrators, based, especially serial killers like Ed Kemper, because they want you to know what they want you to know. So they're going to leave out certain details, maybe exaggerate or downplay others, you know. I mean, his manipulation is on full display with this interview. And I think that's why I find it so fascinating. And we'll do Ed Kemper. We'll do an Ed Kemper stream. I'll put some stuff together and we'll watch this interview. I have the interview just as the interview. Yeah, because again, and I think that's based on there's certain details they want to keep to themselves as a sort of trophy and for enjoyment. I'm not gonna describe in detail how this victim struggled, because that was my favorite part. I'm not going to tell you about the sounds she made as I took her life. They keep it, they hold it, they savor it.
About what his mother said. I imagine similar to what he said when he was getting ready to murder those college students. I think this is exactly what his mother probably sounded like. It seems like he does have a very good memory, and I think that he really is impersonating these people in a very real way.
And she said, "Oh, I suppose you're going to want to sit up all night and talk now." I looked at her, I said,
there's the smile again. Even with tears, he is still smiling. So the question is are these tears real? Is he affected when thinking about killing his mother? It's very possible. I'm not saying that they definitely aren't. You don't see any actual tears roll down, but he could be holding them back. But I do think that he is feeling joy when he talks about this.
"No." I said, "Good night." And I knew I was going to kill her.
And there he is covering his mouth.
Mr. Kemper, I don't see any tears. And that covering of the mouth to hide a smile when the person is feigning being upset and crying. I've seen that before in someone else multiple times. I'm so sorry. Not a tear. Covering their face because they're actually can't hold that smirk in. Gee, who's done that 11 times?
Now, watch this right here. That's not unusual that we cover our mouths if we're crying or when we're trying to stifle something. But I do wonder if he knows that he's smiling, if he is putting on a performance, because he is in absolute control of the narrative. He wants to fool people. He loves to do this. That is evidenced throughout this interview. He seems to feel joy and exuberance when he talks about fooling people. When he talks about the murders, he also smiles. This is someone who has the capacity to feel very deeply. And so I think right now he might be covering his mouth because even if it's unconsciously, he has a certain way that he wants to come across. I don't think this is shame over crying. I think it could be a way to stifle that smile.
And I knew I was going to kill her, you know? And I'm so cold, it's so hard. And that's the first time in 10 years I've looked at it that way. I mean, that intensely, that honestly.
And he wants you to know how honest this is. Watch this.
Looked at it that way. I mean, that intensely, that honestly.
So he's raising his eyebrows when he's saying that honestly. That doesn't mean that what he's saying is more true, but that's what he wants you to pay attention to. He wants you to focus on the fact that he's being honest, or so.
Again, I've watched this a lot of times, and my impression is that he's still, at this time in 1984, like you said, about 10 years after murdering his mother, he still, I think my opinion is that he still had that rage towards her, which very much seemed to fuel a lot of what he did. But now it seemed like it was, just looking at his body language and like everything here, it's like he has that rage now combined with a sense of satisfaction, smugness, and victory. Because he fucking killed her. He decapitated her. He did no things to... I might have to make that Ed Kemper stream 18 plus. But he won in the end because he, fuck you, yo bag. I mean, he didn't murder his mother because he loved her. Kemper is very quick with the little glimpses into, and if you've watched him and you've watched it like this and like you kind of quote know what to look for, again, this is just armchair psychology, right? We're just civilians watching shit and having fun. But if you learn how to spot it, the little flashes of insight he gives, it's fucking terrifying.
He says.
It hurts. Because I'm not.
And again, don't forget this motherfucker was like 6'9". Hold on. Don't forget this motherfucker was like 6'9". It's me. Hold on. How tall was Ed Kemper?
Edmund Kemper is 6 feet 9 inches tall.
6'9", motherfucker. Oh my god. That's a big bitch. That is a big bitch. That's a big back bitch. Yeah, 6'9". Could you imagine? Fuck, dude.
He said it hurts, and then he starts smiling. Once again, this is someone who is fooling you right now. This is someone who has a performance that he's putting on, and he is just loving it.
A lizard. I'm not from under a rock. I came out.
I'm going to go ahead and stop this part right here because he does go on to talk about what he ultimately did after he murdered his mother. And I don't think anybody really should have to listen to this just so that you can learn more about Ed Kemper. But just understand, the body language stays the same, and it gets very, very disturbing. There's a lot more footage of Ed Kemper that we can go over later on. I'll probably do more videos about him because he does talk in a lot of detail about what goes on in his head. Even if some of it's lies, even if some of it's manipulative, there's still a lot that we can learn by watching his body language. Hopefully, one thing that you've gotten from this is someone you cannot trust, even if he turned himself in, even if he tells you details about what he did, even if he acknowledges how awful the things that he has done. And even if he says he wants to prevent other people from doing it, that doesn't mean that you can trust him. He is the very definition of a wolf in sheep's clothing. So you have to be very, very careful to even allow yourself to trust what he's saying through an interview. I think he gets great joy from these interviews because he's in control of what he's saying. And you've always got to keep that in mind with every single one of these serial killers. Control is so important. He is unique in the sense that he turned himself in twice, once after killing his grandparents, once after killing his mother. And so it's not that there isn't something there that's a little bit different than some of the other serial killers out there. But the things that he did were so beyond heinous, so indescribable. I didn't even talk about some of them on this video because it's just too much. So you really
Oh, we'll talk about him later, y'all. We'll talk about him soon.
have to understand the kind of monster we're dealing with when it comes to someone like Ed Kemper. And he truly has a duality about him that is confusing, and it's hard to make sense of as you watch him talk. So hopefully this video has been interesting to you. I do plan on
I like this guy. Again, he's Dr. G. Hold on, what is it? Dr. G explains. It's linked in the description. You flutter on over there and subscribe, because I was looking through his channel. Seems pretty cool. So yeah, so we will do a stream coming up this week. Okay, cool. It's cool. I'm always down to fucking talk about serial killers. Ed Kemper is in my top 5. I'm down to talk about it. Might do it a little later in the day. I don't know why. It seems more appropriate. We'll put trigger warning, all that fun stuff. It's gruesome. It's gory. Ooh, but we'll talk about it. So, like I said earlier, he turned himself in. All this shit went down in 1973. Over the years, Ed Kemper's psychological diagnosis changed. At first, it was thought he was paranoid schizophrenia, but again, as psychology progressed and developed, his diagnosis changed. It changed here and there over the years, or depending on which expert you talk to. But the one thing that kept popping up was antisocial personality. And I just left it as personality because it's there's disorder, there's this, there's that, and just antisocial personality. I think we can all understand what that is. So I found an OG Dr. Grande video. I love Dr. Todd Grande so much. An OG. This must have been one of his first YouTube videos. Look at little baby Dr. Grande. Look at, doesn't even have his microphone. So he goes over what is antisocial personality disorder.
Antisocial personality disorder. Now, antisocial personality disorder is a mental health disorder that has been made popular in the movies and in television. And there's a lot of misinformation and misunderstanding about this disorder. There are a lot of criteria for antisocial personality disorder. And a certain number of these criteria, the individual would have to have met since the age of 15. Now, what's unusual about this is that the diagnosis of antisocial personality disorder cannot be given to someone until they're 18 years old. So taking a look at the symptom criteria for antisocial personality disorder, first we have repeated acts that violate the social norms, that violate the norms of society. And these acts would be grounds for arrest.
Sometimes I just want to play a game where we pull up something like this, some sort of personality disorder type, just say. And it's list off the symptoms, right? The identifying factors of it. And then play a game called How Many People Do We Think Have It? And just name all the fucking streamers and all the fucking chatters that we think have that thing. That could be a series. We're going to do Florida Man soon. I'm just, narcissistic personality disorder. Amberlynn Reed.
Many individuals with antisocial personality disorder have been arrested and incarcerated. Next symptom criterion is deceitfulness, lying. This is fairly common with this disorder. We also see impulsivity, irritability, and aggressiveness, including physical aggressiveness in many cases. A reckless disregard for the safety of others, irresponsibility, and this can be across.
And safety of others could mean physical safety, because again, I was reading up on this. It could mean physical safety, emotional safety or well-being, mental well-being. It's like you just don't give a fuck. You're like, nope, don't care. I don't care if what I'm about to do is against social norms, if it's against the law, and I don't care if it hurts you on some level or in some way, shape, and form. Even if it's just a little bit or if it's a lot, I don't care. Who does this sound like?
One dimension or many dimensions, work irresponsibility, financial irresponsibility, and we see no remorse. So many individuals with antisocial personality disorder, when they commit an act that
No remorse. And again, like we just saw with Kemper, just because somebody says they're remorseful or is trying to portray that they're remorseful doesn't mean they're remorseful. A lot of people with personality disorders, psychopathy, sociopathy, antisocial, they learn how to mimic human behavior. Oh, wait, I'm supposed to. Oh, Jennifer's dog died. Oh, I'm supposed to be upset about that. Okay, I'm not upset. I have no feeling about it. But let me mimic that I'm sad for her or about this occurrence because that's what I'm supposed to do. These people learn how to mimic these things as they go through life.
harms other people, they don't feel remorse. A lot of times they tend to
Queen
blame
of
the victim.
Karma, I saw what you said earlier, girl hugs. And also, that's fucking scary. Queen of Karma says, my ex used to watch The Room and react after he saw how everyone else was reacting. Girl, I dated someone like that. My last boyfriend I dated 10 years ago. And after that, I said, nope, no more. I'm done. I'm good. I'm good. And it took me a while, like after, to realize I'm like, one, he was definitely a narcissist. And two, I think it was a little bit of a fucking psychopath because, like, it just didn't. A lot of like how he would, and you guys know me, I'm a big softie. I get choked up on stream all the time, right? I start talking about certain things. You can hear my voice gives me away. I'm a big softie. I'm very emotional, and I would watch how he would react in some cases. And like I didn't realize it at the time because I was in love and blah 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 and whatever. But yeah, he kind of did that same thing. I'm just thank God he broke up with me, and fucking thank God, blessing in disguise. The universe did me a favor, and thank God for it doing so.
Victim or imply that the victim deserved whatever was done. So we see a real lack of empathy. So as I mentioned, we see a lot about antisocial personality disorder in the movies and in television. And oftentimes they look at extreme characterizations of this illness, including people that commit acts of extreme violence or extremely sophisticated types of criminal activity. Like,
Yeah, and that's one thing I always like to stress when I'm talking about stuff like this is there are those extreme cases of, your Kempers, your Elliot Rogers, whatever psychological / personality disorder is going on that's like that extreme case. But many people have a lot of these things that I talk about, and while they acknowledge it, that's not an extreme case. They work on it, they progress, they get better, and it's not easy. It's not easy to fight against like the way your brain is, your mind, because your brain and your mind are two different things, right? To learn to rewire everything to act in accordance, or there's extreme cases, there's not extreme cases. A lot of people deal with these things. I know a lot of people that deal with various things, and it's not an easy fight. And shout out to everyone that's dealing with, I don't care if it's depression, anxiety, antisocial personality, any sort of cluster B, whatever. If you're working on it, trying to get better, more power to you, man.
like organized crime. However, a lot of the criminal activity we see in real life in mental health treatment would be more like fraud, more like manipulation and theft crimes. Certainly, more serious crimes are committed by many individuals with this disorder, but the majority of crimes we see are more based on manipulation and theft than they are in some sort of physical aggressiveness and harming people. However, of course, there are, as I mentioned, a number of people with antisocial personality disorder that do commit severe crimes. And this becomes an issue for treatment professionals. A fair number of mental health treatment professionals, understandably, prefer to avoid treating antisocial personality disorder. There's the personal risk and the risk to people at the facility, but also there's this idea that antisocial personality disorder is extremely difficult to treat.
Oh, that explains it.
Add on top of this the kind of charming demeanor and the manipulation piece we see with a lot of people that have this disorder, and it only makes it more difficult to provide treatment.
Mm-hmm.
Now, with
And keep in mind, like, regardless, and I don't care if it's Joe Schmo or Ed Kemper, that person has to, even if they can't like accept their diagnosis or whatever, but they still have a want to get better, you know, because it can take time to come to terms with any diagnosis, whatever it is, chronic pain, shitty illnesses, psychological stuff. You might need some time to accept that, but you can still want to get better and start on that path to deal with things, learn about it yourself, get it under control, yada, 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 yada.
the prison population, with those that are involved in the criminal justice system, there are a few characteristics that we tend to see more often in those individuals. And that would be a lack of empathy, superficial charm, and an inflated self appraisal. So, those three characteristics we tend to see more with individuals involved in the prison system. Now, what causes antisocial personality disorder? We don't know. We do know there is a genetic component. We don't know what kind of contribution that makes.
Again, nature versus nurture. Are people born with these things? Is it something that happens in childhood? Because, like, we're so susceptible as children. Like, I will always have trauma brain. You know, that's a big reason I'm like, I don't engage in a back and forth with any other streamers. I have no desire to argue with anybody. People that come at me a certain way, I'm like, I am not engaging with you. You are triggering my trauma brain, and I don't want to be your friend. And I just fucking stay away from them.
In terms of a percent, there's no real precision there. But there is a biological component and there are environmental components. There have been a number of events that have been connected to antisocial personality disorder, but we really don't know if they're causal. One would be malnutrition, another smoking during pregnancy.
Really?
Another risk factor would be having one or both parents that have a substance use disorder. But the big one that we see repeatedly tends to be related to trauma. Child abuse seems to contribute to.
I don't have antisocial personality, but I like trauma. Listen, trauma can cause a lot of shit, especially childhood trauma. That's so funny. I'm like, I have trauma brain, and he's like, this was caused by childhood trauma. I'm like, oh.
To the development of antisocial personality disorder. Again, we can't be sure, but we believe that may be causal. Certainly, there's an association between child abuse and other early childhood trauma and the development of antisocial personality disorder. So, in the general population, about 3% of males have antisocial personality disorder and 1% of females.
So 3%. So that would be like, I mean, that's not really. So if you had 100 males, 3% would be 3 people, you know. That's not, I mean, it's not too much. And then it'd be like 1 out of every 100 women. Math.
We look to other populations, like those being treated in long-term substance use care facilities or those incarcerated, the percentages go up dramatically. For males,
Oh.
some studies show as high as 70% of individuals from those settings.
Oh my God, that's 70 out of 100, like just going on hundreds and tens, because holy shit, that's a lot. So, like prison as opposed to rehab facilities, we went from 3% to 70. I don't even know what the fuck to say. I'm just gonna hit play because goddamn.
Could have antisocial personality disorder. And specifically looking at prisons, there's some studies that show up to 80% of males in prison could be diagnosed with.
Oh my God, that's so many. That is so many. That my brain cell's having a hard time comprehending that. Holy shit, dude. I've never really looked into like antisocial personality disorder, but this is some shit. I'm like, fuck. Like everything fascinates me, but I think I need to look into this more. That's it. Doesn't it make sense? Oh my God. That's what, like, that is a big fucking percentage. Like, that's a big back. It's like a big back Ed Kemper fucking percentage. Holy shit.
Antisocial personality disorder. When looking at comorbidity for antisocial personality disorder, that is, other mental health disorders that tend to occur with this disorder.
Bitch, I love a comorbidity. What do we think he's going to say? Goes along with this. Narcissism, covert, overt, maybe narcissism, psychopathy. What do we think?
This disorder has high comorbidity with a number of mental health disorders. It's estimated that over 80% of individuals with antisocial personality disorder have a comorbid substance use disorder.
Oh, substance use.
About 50% have a comorbid anxiety disorder, and around 25% a comorbid depressive disorder. Another question.
Interesting. Substance abuse, anxiety, depressive disorder. I could have been antisocial. Holy shit. See, nature, but I think nature went out in the end. Huh. Sorry, I'm just really, I didn't realize, like, I mean, I don't have the substance abuse, but I've got the some anxiety, definitely the depression, seasonal depression, especially trauma brain. I mean, unless you count like caffeine, you know. And yes, I smoke. Go fuck yourself if you don't like it. God. Out here in these streets picking at everybody. Look at your damn self, ma'am.
I get fairly often related to antisocial personality disorder.
Ooh, I have that too. I have that one too. I got the PTSD and I got the CPTSD. I got both flavors of PTSD. Sorry. I have to laugh. I have to laugh about it. It took me into my late 30s. No. I think it was like early 2019. I started seeing a therapist. Finally got diagnosed with PTSD and CPTSD. It took that long.
Is how is it related to psychopathy and sociopathy?
Ooh.
So just to give a summary, we view psychopathy and sociopathy a little differently. You can think of psychopathy as more biologically based.
Wow.
And sociopathy is more environmentally based. And when we think of some of the key traits associated with psychopathy versus sociopathy, we would think of psychopathy as inherited, so it's genetic, as I mentioned.
Ooh.
And individuals with psychopathy would be more cold and calculating and less emotional than somebody with sociopathy. So they would still oftentimes commit crimes and violate social norms, but they would think through the consequences a little more. And there's also this belief that somebody with psychopathy generally is at a greater risk to commit severe crimes. Now, with sociopathy, somebody with sociopathy is more emotional. They have more mood dysregulation, and they tend to be more impulsive. They don't think through to the consequences. We think of individuals with sociopathy, we think of them as more likely to commit less severe crimes and to get caught more often for the crimes they do commit because of the lack of planning. So more impulsive, less planning, and we think of it as being caused more by environmental aspects. So somebody with sociopathy would appear to have more problems with mood management than somebody with psychopathy.
Isn't this just fascinating? Like, I know this isn't everybody's, flavor, and that's fine because I guess everybody would rather watch fat bitches argue on the internet, which, okay, sure, I saw Belinda's live, so I'll dip in there after this, but it's like, I find this fascinating. I would rather be talking about this.
Also, we think of individuals with sociopathy as being less charming, less manipulative. Now, the distinction between sociopathy and psychopathy may be interesting and certainly plays a part in how we conceptualize antisocial personality disorder. But both psychopathy and sociopathy point towards antisocial personality disorder. So somebody with antisocial personality disorder would likely have sociopathic tendencies or psychopathic tendencies. It doesn't affect the diagnosis. Sociopathy or psychopathy has no effect on whether somebody has antisocial personality disorder. The official mental health disorder and the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, the DSM, is antisocial personality disorder. You could think of psychopathy and sociopathy as two sets of characteristics that appear to be distinct, but it has no bearing on the mental health disorder. I hope you found this
Interesting. God, I love Dr. Grande. I love just his ability to just dry drag a bitch. Like, Dr. Grande drags. It's subtle, it's to the point, ironclad. He doesn't have to scream or yell or throw low blows. Dr. Grande knows how to drag. He could teach all the seminars about all the psychological, whatever. He needs to teach a fucking seminar on how to properly drag a bitch because that motherfucker does it right. Shout out to Dr. Grande. I've been watching him for years. I adore Dr. Grande. He's one of my favorites. Oh, so Ed Kemper was real fucked up, y'all. Manipulative, angry, big back bitch, 6'9". God damn, 6'9". I dated a guy that was 6'4". Holy shit, 6 foot. Goddamn. So I hope you enjoyed. So yeah, I'll do a separate stream on Ed Kemper coming up. Let me go scour the YouTubes and find some stuffs. We'll watch the interview on its own. I'm not sure if I'm gonna make that a members or not. So if you're wanting to watch that, I might make it a member, become a member. Become a member, but anyway, it's fun. Shout out to my replay crew. I know I'm going to do Slender Man and we all know about the two girls stabbing their friend, that true crime case. And I know the one girl was like diagnosed as schizophrenic, so we might touch on schizophrenia a little bit. I'll look through some stuff, but it'll be a long stream. It'll be a fun stream. So we'll do a members only this week. And I don't know, do we want to dip into kick? Maybe we'll do some kick. Maybe we'll see what Amber and Chantal are up to. Mildly interesting. I need to find if somebody cut down that 12-hour stream. Chantel did, because 2 hours. I'm at an hour and 50 minutes. Look at me. All right. I thank everyone for being here. I should be back. I'm not sure when I'll be back. It could be tomorrow. It'll probably definitely be Monday. I don't know. Again, it's if I'm feeling up to it, see who's streaming, what's going on, all that fun stuff. So make sure you check the channel. I appreciate everyone for being here. Shout out replay crew. And I'll see you probably on like Wednesday for the next spoopy armchair. It was on Saturday this week because on Wednesday I felt I needed to cover some more important stuff. If you haven't watched that stream, please go do so. And I'll update on that soon too. All right, I'm gonna go hang out in Belinda's and see what's going on with the fatties screaming bullshit at each other. So I'll probably see you in that chat. All right, I'll talk to you later, guys. Bye.